Joining us on stage, Sikyong Penpa Tsering, political leader of the Tibetan government in exile.
Sorry. Excellent. Excellent. Am I speaking now? Okay. I didn't know that I have to speak immediately after coming on the platform. Good evening. We all have come from different parts of the world with varying degrees of religious repression. My name is Penpa Tsering. I represent the Tibetan people. Since we have very limited time, I'll come to the point. The Chinese government not only forcefully invaded Tibet way back in 1950, now 76 years after the forceful occupation, the Chinese government is intent on destroying the identity of the Tibetan people. That includes the Tibetan language and Tibetan religion, the Tibetan Buddhist religion. In Tibet, religious freedom does not exist, just like our friends from East Turkestan, Mongolia, and others may have talked about. What we take for granted does not exist. Tibet has been a devout Buddhist country for the last more than 1,300 years. And we have been practicing Buddhism freely in that 2.5 million square kilometers, almost quarter of China, roof of the world. Tibet is also called as the land surrounded by snow mountains. Tibet is also called as the third pole. Tibet is also called as the water tower of Asia. So it has a lot of geostrategic, geopolitical resonance when you talk about Tibet. And then, of course, the religious freedom in Tibet, as I mentioned, does not exist. The number of monks and nuns that used to be in agencies. The Buddhist monks and nuns are educated with curriculum set by the Chinese Communist Party that does not believe in any religion. And surveillance is prevalent in all monastic institutions to watch, surveil, control the Tibetan monks and nuns with support from Silicon Valley to, provide surveillance materials to the Chinese authorities. That includes Tibetans who are being controlled and surveilled. So now, of course, the Chinese government wants to be responsible for recognizing the reincarnation of the 14th Dalai Lama. The Chinese government is not bothered about the living 14th, but they are more concerned about the yet to come 15th Dalai Lama. And they have passed a law as far back as 2007 called Order Number 5, which says that the Chinese government will be the final authority to recognize reincarnated lamas, what they call as living Buddhas. That includes, that is specifically aimed at the next Dalai Lama. So the Chinese government today has three positions. One is that they will look for His Holiness the Dalai Lama's reincarnation, the next reincarnation within China, which means the communist government is ordering the Dalai Lama, who is supposed to be reborn, not to be born outside Tibet. So His Holiness has been very clear. His Holiness said, I will be born in a free world. So if Tibet is not free by that time, His Holiness will not be born inside Tibet or inside China. He will be born outside, right? Outside Tibet or China, because it's He who has to be reborn, and it's He who decides where He has to be reborn to carry on His responsibilities. And the second position of the Chinese government is that through tradition, they use the golden urn, which was supposed to have been introduced during the Qing period, who are not Chinese. Qings are Manchus, in 1793. But there is no evidence of those. And when the Chinese government says by tradition, then I always point out to the Chinese government, there have been 8 Dalai Lamas before 1793. So what about those Dalai Lamas? Were those Dalai Lamas not chosen through the traditional means? Are those Dalai Lamas not Dalai Lamas? So the golden urn theory, China is misusing. They have been misusing for the last recognition of the 11th Panchen Lama. So the Chinese have their own Panchen Lama who will be misused again for their political gain to choose the next Dalai Lama, which is already happening inside Tibet by giving more prominence to the Chinese selected Panchen Lama. So the third position of the Chinese government is the Chinese government will be the final authority to recognize reincarnated Lama. A government that does not believe in any religion, how can they be responsible for the recognition? It's more like for the Christians, the Chinese government saying we will appoint the Pope. For the Tibetan Buddhists, His Holiness Dalai Lama is our Pope. Tibet and Lhasa are the home to Tibetan Buddhism, and Tibetan Buddhism is not only inside Tibet, but in that whole region, the Himalayas. So the US government has passed a law, several laws on Tibet starting in 2002, and this was amended to the 2020 US Tibet Support and Policy Act, wherein they have included the element of His Holiness reincarnation that also talks about sanctioning Chinese officials in future who will be responsible for choosing the next Dalai Lama on the orders of the Chinese government. And that was signed into law by President Trump. And in 2024, the Resolve Tibet Act that was passed by the Congress in July 2024 was signed into law by President Biden. And now I think it's time that if the Chinese government does not respond positively to His Holiness' peaceful gesture of resolving the Sino-Tibet conflict through negotiation, through dialogue, and a mutually beneficial solution that could be lasting, if it is not accepted by the Chinese government, then I think it's time for the US government and the governments of the free world to take a position that Tibet should be recognized as an independent state, because Tibet was historically an independent state. And if there is a declaration that's coming out after this summit, which I suggested to Ambassador Brown, and he has been very generous. I also attended the Article 18 Alliance conference in Czech Republic. There also they passed a resolution saying that the Tibetan people have the right to select their reincarnation according to their traditions. So I will end with this thought for world peace, because His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, turned 90. We are celebrating His Holiness' 90th birthday as the Year of Compassion internationally with different kind of programs. And His Holiness has always said, he always stressed on the oneness of humanity. Whether we are black, white, brown, yellow, whatever, we are all human beings with the same intellect. And His Holiness says, I am one among the 8 billion people in this world. Whatever title you have now or not, you are just one human being. As one human being, His Holiness says, my duty is to promote human values. Whether you believe in religion or do not believe in religion, His Holiness worked for many years to develop a curriculum called C learning, social, emotional, and ethical learning. And that, I think, is a very good seed for education all around the world. And His Holiness' second commitment, he always says, I'm just a simple Buddhist monk. I'm a religious person. So we are all religious people, or some don't believe in religion. That's also fine. But as religious people, we practice our own religion, but we should respect all other religions. That is how we live in peace with each other. I'll leave you with these messages. Thank you for the opportunity, the organizers, and Ambassador Brownback, and the Speaker Pelosi is also going to join with us after this. And thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.